Hi, Aditi.
Hey, Donna.
Aditi and I are here today to announce my new form of spirit communication. Are we excited, Aditi?
Yes, super excited. Finally.
Finally, the announcement. I've been doing dribs and drabs. It's been a soft announcement. Now it's going to be official. And Aditi's been with me pretty much since it started. If not, she's known about it. And I've been using her as a little test subject throughout the last few months. And she's going to help me, help remind me as I go through this process today with you guys to explain to you what it is, how I've been doing it, and what that means for me and for everybody.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is up in the air. A lot of it is we don't know. There's no way that I can practice, go to take classes for this because you just do it and spirit decides. So basically it's spirit communicating with me. Yes, Aditi?
Yes, I would definitely say that. Yes.
Yeah. And it's called ITC, Instrumental Transcommunication. It's also called EVPs, Electronic Voice Phenomena. And many people before me have certainly done this. I'm not the first one. However, as far as I know, I'm the first one doing it the way I'm doing it right now. So people like Marcello Bacci, if you look up his name, he was gaining spirit voices through his old-fashioned timey radio that he had, and people would gather in a room and he would turn the static on his radio and voices from the spirit world would come through, and typically they were for someone in the room. I'm going to close my curtain here, Aditi.
Okay.
I don't like it shining on my glasses. Okay, better.
Oh, that is better.
That's annoying. So he did it. I don't even know the year, but you can Google him. And then there's a woman named Sonia Rinaldi, and I watched her documentary from We Don't Die Films. You can Google that. That's out there. And what she does is through vapor mist, she is able to, with the work of spirit, transform the mist into faces of loved ones in the afterlife. And I've known about EVPs. Deets, have you known about EVPs for a long time? You know how that can happen.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
And in my frame of reference, it was, you walk into something spooky or haunted, and the paranormal TV shows and the people that go out and just search for that. But I, in no shape or form or fashion, want to say that this was in any way scary, ghostly. I would like it to be a version of the new normal that spirit can, wants to, and is working on using their voices to communicate with us, not through mental mediumship, but through physical mediumship. Agree?
Absolutely. Yes.
And again, I'll state, it's not that it hasn't been happening, and it was happening probably 20, 30, 40, maybe eons ago, and I've known about it. But it was never something that I said, oh, I want to do that. I just didn't say that until I did. I could say that this officially started for me back when my mom passed in 2020, and I was cleaning out her condo. And I found a little transistor radio of hers, battery operated transistor radio that she probably never used. She probably had it on hand just for weather if the power went out. So being the medium that I am, I turned it on and I went and I let the static go and I just yelled into it, Mom, talk to me. Mom, if you're there, say something. I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know how this I didn't even know the term ITC, but I knew EVPs and I knew spirit had the ability to do that. And then I just kind of laughed it off. Nothing happened. I was doing it not correctly, but maybe it could have happened, but that wasn't the time for it to happen. And then we jump forward till November of last year. And I must have watched a video at that time. Maybe I watched the Marcello Bacci one, or I'm not sure which one I watched, but I thought, I think I'm going to try that again. Maybe my mom will come through. And I sat down with my computer open. I had QuickTime up, which is a recording app on your computer. And I was recording. And I had my mom's static radio beside me, just playing static, because what they say is spirit, the afterlife, uses the static to create words. I don't understand the whole science about it. There are people online that can tell you all about the gigahertz, the megahertz, and how it works. I don't have any idea, but I know they tell you to try with static. They also say they'll use your voice, the medium's voice, and I'm a medium, so I'm going to call it that. They use the medium's voice box. I've always said from day one, I don't want you to use my voice box. I want you to create a voice box outside my body. And I have, if I think back, I have about 8 years ago, I heard a voice in my room in the middle of the night. And it was, who was the famous author that came through that day? Oh, George Bernard Shaw. I wake up in the middle of the night, and in my room in the corner, which is where they come from typically, I heard, "This is George Bernard Shaw." And I went, and anything else? And it took me almost 8 years to really get confirmation that it was him. That's another story. So I guess it was leading to this, Aditi. I just didn't know it, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Everything up till that happened before leading up to now was getting you prepared, Donna.
I was getting prepared. That's right. Preparing myself for the future. But I love the way it just kind of unfolded because I had no thought about this. So I'm in the room that night, November. November, for some reason, is a really big month for me. It's the year that Jerry Hicks passed. The month that Jerry passed, and also the month that JFK passed. And they're two of my spirit guides. So I have my computer all the way down. The monitor light is all the way down to darkness. I'm in my dark room, and I'm basically not even sitting in meditation. I sat for like 3 minutes, and then I started doing some yoga and some stretching, but I'm not saying anything. My eyes are closed though. All of a sudden I see a light in my eyes. I see a light in my room, and I open my eyes, and my computer light had gone up a notch. The monitor light had turned up. And I wasn't saying anything, but in my head, I'm sure I was thinking, well, that's interesting. So what else could it be? So I turned the monitor down again, back to darkness, and I said something. And I said, okay, I'm done. And I closed off, shut down QuickTime. So I go back to look at QuickTime. And you know how when you record something like that, there's a wave pattern, and it's usually just a steady stream of static, or there's a spike where you're talking. And I knew the point where the light went on of the computer. And I thought, that's gotta be a sign. That's gotta be something. And then after that, I said something. And I'm looking at it. And then after I said something, I saw another spike. And I went, wait, that's not me. Who is that? And I go back to listen. And I heard a voice say a few words. And I'm sure I just did this. I'm pretty sure I just did nothing. I just went, what the was that? And then I sent it to a bunch of people. I'm going to play that first one now, Aditi, and I'm just going to keep my fingers crossed that this works, because earlier I was practicing this and Spirit was screwing up everything. So I'm just going to practice. And this one's hard to hear because this was the beginning of my stuff.
Yes. And I'm pretty sure you shared this with me also.
So that one's hard to hear, but I heard definitely a man's voice. I didn't slow it down. I didn't have the capability at that time, but I eventually brought it to my phone. This is all trial and error for me. Because again, I couldn't really Google it. No one's telling me how to get it from QuickTime to my computer, how to just, there wasn't enough information online. I'm hoping this is at least helping someone down the road, if not now. So I sent it to a bunch of people and everybody kind of heard a couple of the words, but maybe not the other words. So it might have been hard to hear. But what I heard was, you ready? Are you ready? You ready? And then I think I let somebody else listen to it and they heard, yeah, I definitely hear ready. Then I let my daughter listen and she's like, yeah, it says, you ready for this? You ready for me? I'm like, oh my gosh, there are more words after you ready. So it takes an ear for this sort of thing to hear EVPs. And then it takes a lot of practice. I heard it immediately, but I don't know how many times I might have heard it, but never heard it.
Right. So now that you've said what it said on there, will you play that again?
I'm going to play it again. Thank you. So that was saying it over and over again. I just repeated it 3 times. You ready for me? Were you able to hear it?
No.
Yep. So if you're listening to this, you might put headphones in. That might help a little bit. But the other ones that I'm going to play in a bit are going to be a lot clearer. Again, this was my first one. And then after the next day, after that, I said, well, let me try this again. The next day I did the exact same thing, computer, QuickTime running, recording, my mom's static radio. And again, I saw the spikes where I was not talking. And this is what I recorded that day.
I could hear that one, but very quiet.
So this one, the static got really loud, which was telling me more now than it did then, that that's what spirit does. They'll come in and use the baseline static, which mostly everything that records, what I'm finding out, has an underneath static line. So you amplify the sound enough, you're going to get static. You're going to hear the static. But they used it, so you'll hear the static get louder and louder and louder. And then there were some words like da 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 sa, and it was just like a chant or something. It wasn't English to me. And I know you heard that one, Aditi, when I sent it to you.
Yes, that one was very clear.
Yeah. So again, if you have your headphones in, or if I eventually post this on social media somewhere, I'll post it again. But it's underneath the static. They use the static to manipulate static to make words. They weren't using me, they were using the static. Now, from what I'm finding out as the months go by, yes, they're using me as a medium. I have that, whatever's inside of me to create that, and that I've worked for that. And they like that because they know I'm committed and they know I'm into this. So that's a big factor also, to know that you believe this and that you know this can happen and how exciting it could be. It could change the world if they can get better at this. And we've been calling it building the bridge, right? Other people have been calling it this, right? Let's build the bridge with spirit. Yes?
Yes, absolutely. And that's it. That's a beautiful representation of it. Because yeah, building that bridge to be able to communicate with our loved ones or spirit guides, that are in the non-physical.
Yep, exactly. So we on this side of the bridge, and them, because they're all right here, but there's still a vibration that has to connect. There's 2 vibrations that have to connect. So that's where we're building the bridge. So I get those 2, just those 2 basic ones, and I'm high as a kite, but I'm thinking, I don't know anything about this. What am I going to do? But it's the end of November, it's the holidays, and then I put it away. I didn't do anything. And then it's January, and I want to say I had a dream, And for some reason, the next day I went to look, I watched the video Calling Earth. It's on Vimeo, Calling Earth. And it was a documentary about Bocce is in it, how other people have connected via the phone. Konstantin, Raudive, if you've heard any of these names, he actually called from the spirit world, called someone on the phone. They have it recorded, and he talked very clear on the phone. So I'm like, yeah, I want that. That's what I want. So I said, okay, I guess it's time I sit down again and do it again. So I committed to at least 2 or 3 recordings a day. And I learned, doing it 2 or 3 minutes is more than enough time. Try different sorts of static devices. I tried everything. I tried YouTube static noise. I bought these old timey phones to see if they wanted to call me. I have one sitting over here, which is it's not hooked up to anything. It's just hooked up to the power outlet. But if they wanted to call me, they could record a message because it's an answering machine, a digital answering machine. So I'm set up, but I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm doing this by myself for like a month, and I have all these recordings and I listen to them every day. They're on my phone. I figured out how to put them on voice memo on my phone, how to slow them down to hear more. And I'm hearing more sound. I'm hearing a lot of clicks, like spikes of the wave, a spike, lots of clicks, lots of bumps, lots of clattering, lots of just stuff. Later, I figured out that those clicks are them trying to connect. They're building that bridge. They're connecting in a way that they know how. It's almost like when you get a static surge, when you hit something with your finger and you get a static shock. That's what it was sounding like. It was sounding like a static shock, or like the electricity if lightning hits when it goes. That's what it was sounding like. And I guess, again, I'm not technical about this, but you can assume that's what's happening, because it feels like a static charge when you're in that vibration of spirit. And in order for them to cross that barrier, that it would make a noise, right? It would make some sort of noise. I just start reading about ITC more. I'm hearing more on my recorder. And I have the podcast. So I did a podcast recording for this person. And when I went to listen through Zoom, you create 2 tracks. One is my track and one is my guest track. So you can edit out whatever you want to edit out. And my producer and editor has been doing great at doing this. But for some reason, I listened to both. And I could hear the clicks and the surges. And I could hear voices. I'm like, wait a minute now, that's a lot coming through. So when I sent it to my sister, who's my editor and producer, she said, oh my gosh, I've been taking all those noises out for these last 2 months, not even realizing what they were. I said, but you never said anything to me. She says, no, I didn't say anything because I just thought it was something weird on Zoom. It wasn't weird. It was spirit. Where did I go with that? I just kept practicing.
Yeah.
Now I call in Aditi and I said, let's try to contact your father. So we sat in a couple of recordings, and before I ask her to explain what that meant to her, they're not really sound enough to play here for you guys, because there's a lot of static still. This was before kind of we were really getting a little better at this on my end. But I had asked, how I do spirit dictionary words. If anybody's not familiar with that, what I do is I just take a book and I ask spirit for a word and I spin the pages. Spirit draws me to a page and a word, and that's their message for me. So I had asked spirit one day about this work I'm doing, this new form of communicating with spirit, communicating with me. What do I call it? What is it? Because I wanted something different, right? I wanted something different. I'm all about different. Let's be different. And spirit drew me to the word eclipse. And the definition of eclipse, I wrote it down. Let's see if I have it written here. Yeah. It is an interception of the light by some other body. Eclipse, an interception of the light by some other body. My sister said almost like an echo. So spirit and me, they start to come together just like an eclipse. And then when we eclipse each other, comes the noise, comes the words, comes the ability. So I've been calling these now spirit eclipses, a spirit eclipse. I like that, Aditi. Do you like that?
Yes, I do. I love that.
So before I play a few more other ones that have come through, I'm going to ask Aditi to explain what it felt like to have her dad's voice come through.
Yes, thank you. So we practiced a couple of different times, and the first time that he came through, he said his name. And, at first on that, yes, it was exciting, to hear. Um, for me personally, with not really having any experience with this before, like I said earlier, I had heard of the ITC EVP, but never really had any type of interaction or anything with it. So hearing my dad's name, yes, that was absolutely amazing, exciting. Some things that were going through my head is this real? Did this really just happen? Because my dad he's been passed for 31 years now. So, even in the tone, after 31 years, do I even remember what my dad's voice is? Maybe not. So, just hearing, he said Dennis, my dad's name. And then, so like vibrationally, for me, I was just kind of getting the understanding of all of this. Okay, so then, talking with you, Donna, about what you've been experiencing and all of the recordings that you're getting. So it's tuning my ear. It's deepening my knowledge base, my awareness. And the second time that we did the recording, my dad actually said my name, of what he used to call me, which is ironically enough what Donna calls me, and that's Deets. And then he said daddy. And that time it was very clear. And I will tell you that, how I said, do I remember his voice? Do I? Don't I? I don't, after that long. But there is no question about it once you hear it, and the healing that it brings to your soul. I went through, after hearing that, Donna calls me up one day and she's like, I thought you would be more excited about this. Why aren't you excited?
Right,
I'm like,
because you didn't say anything after. And like that day, I thought you'd come back, oh, wow, Donna, that was so great. But I heard crickets from Aditi. I'm like, why isn't she texting me? Wasn't this good? I thought it was great. Was it not great? So.
Yeah. So it is, so for me, I mean, at first, I think I was in shock about it. And then, once Donna had messaged me a couple days later, like, how are you feeling? Like, are you excited? And that just kind of, brought the emotional piece down of it. And I was just, it brought in so much healing, because when we lose our loved ones, when we, say that they've passed, we've lost them, they've died, I don't know about everybody else, but I always hear, like, if I could just hear their voice just one more time, you know, and even though it was a simple daddy, you know, Dennis, it brought in so much healing. And I really went through it for a couple of days emotionally, just going through another layer of healing. And oh, there was one other thing I was just going to say, but it's amazing. It really is. And you know, now gaining more awareness on this, it's all of this is, it's just exciting. It's a game changer for people, for sure. To hear their loved one's voice. Like, how amazing is that?
It's intriguing. Like you and I were just going through, how do we feel about this? I mean, it's different when, again, mental mediumship, I'm bringing through their names, I'm bringing through their favorite color, what state they lived in. But there's a difference now that they are saying something, because now they become a more active participant in this bridge. And we were doing, and when he brought through his name, that was still, even though that was maybe what, a month ago, we've come so far, so much further in the last month. Now I'm recognizing better ways to do it without the static, to use the Zoom recording without the static, because the static's is driving me crazy, to be honest. I can't hear anything through that static. I'm trying to re-listen to the ones I did for the last 2 months, and I'm like, nope, I can't make it out. So this Zoom has canceled out all of that. And it's, every spirit is different. So the fact that your dad was able to do what he did, there could be someone else's dad that can only do clicks and beeps, like, and just hear that. But that even is something, because you know now they're trying to do it. And they have to, we've said this, they have to practice just as much as we are practicing.
Absolutely.
It's theirs, it's on them as much as it's on us. And the people that did it eons before this moment, they didn't have what we have now in technology. So spirit is now working through computers, Zoom recordings. They're all different forms of technology. Again, I have no idea how it actually works, but it works.
Right.
I'm practicing, and I am helping. I am the bridge. So I've had many great synchronicities that this is happening. Can I tell you about the time it happened in my car?
Yeah, go do it. Yeah, say it.
This was early, sometime mid-January, and I'm just only doing this in my home. I was excited when I didn't have to do it in my bedroom. It didn't just have to happen in my bedroom, but I brought it out into my living room, and it still kept happening, and it didn't have to be in the dark. It was in the light, and everything, I said, great, because I can just sit here and talk, and they were answering me. So that's proof that you've got the communication. When you say something and they respond with either yes, or they say their name after you say, can you say your name? They say yes. I'm in my car driving home, the radio's on, I'm singing a song, I'm just about to turn into my driveway, and I hear a man's voice in my car. And I'm sure it was one of those moments that I just did this. What's that? Good thing I was coming into my driveway, because it gave me a moment to just sit there and go, did I just hear what I just heard? And it turned out to be a man was asking about someone that lived in this town that I live in. So he said her name, and then he said, tell her that, I can't remember their names, this person and this person are watching her from the other side. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
So now I know, well, if they did it, that guy did it, how come everybody can't do that? But that's not the way it works. Just the way some mediums are clairvoyant, some are just clairaudient. We're not all the same. They're not all the same.
Right.
My daughter's grandfather who always came through for me during a regular reading with other mediums, he always made himself known. He made himself known on the tape. He said his name, Jean. He said it while I was sitting talking to her, recording it. I don't know what that means. He's been there a long time. He's already picked up on my vibe, so it was easier for him. I could explain it away, but to be honest, we really don't know. We just don't know the real reason why. Some can do it better, easier than others. All I know is we're still building that bridge, and we're gaining that. So my point of being here today was to introduce this new form of spirit eclipsing. I'm excited to practice more with clients. If someone would like a reading to do this, they can certainly reach out to me. All the information will be below. But let's play a couple more. Okay, Deets?
Okay. And then I have a couple questions.
Yes, okay, I'm excited for questions. This next one I'm going to play just happened maybe about 3 weeks ago. And I was speaking with a woman who I met recently, whose son died about 20 years ago, I want to say. And she's already been communicating with him. He has already sent her a voice message on her answering machine. And she does this also for herself and with some other people through a website. There's a lot going on that I wasn't familiar with at the time, but somebody hooked me up with her and we chatted for a while and I had my recording going. And I caught this. That's his name. Could you hear that, Aditi?
A little bit.
His name is Braden. And he said his name along with a lot of other things that day during that recording. That was probably the first one I heard really clearly from someone saying his name. That was clear. Another one, this happened to me. This was on one of my recordings by myself recently, this year. And I had talked a lot. It was about a 5-minute recording. I talked a lot. And right at the end, I start turning everything off. And this comes through on the recording. And that's saying, well done, friend. Well done, friend.
Will you play that?
Play it again.
Very good.
So after I tell you what it says, you hear it better, yes?
Yes. Yep.
That's pretty typical. And some people will hear, like I heard hello on one and I sent it to my other sister and she said, oh, that's really cool. Who's saying I love you? And I'm like, what did you hear? She said, I heard I love you. And I said, I'm hearing hello. So that will happen. There'll be different ways people will interpret it based on what they're hearing. Is like, I don't have an answer for it. I just know it happens. So that one, well done, friend. I'm kind of assuming it was my friend who passed away, Diane, because she's been a big part of everything I've done so far as a medium before she crossed and after she crossed. So I hear her voice there saying, well done, friend. When I put that one through on social media and you could hit captions and the app will pick up what the recording is saying, right? So it'll caption it. This one picked up the word love. And then when I listened to it again yesterday, when I was getting it ready for this video, I thought I heard love you, friend. Instead of well done, friend, I heard love you, friend. So the Instagram app was picking up the word love, didn't hear the rest, but picked up the word love. So I find that very interesting that both of those interpretations are beautiful. Well done, friend, and love you, friend. So that's another one that came through. I'll play a couple more. This next one is an early one. We'll say a November one, probably, where they're just footsteps. Now nothing is happening. This is just me recording. I'm sitting still, dark room, not moving at all. And this happened. It almost sounds like the first clunk, and then it sounds like 3 steps going through rocks, gravel. Were you able to hear that one?
Yeah, a little bit. That one was really soft. It more sounded like you could hear the rocks at first, but then it kind of went thud,
Yes.
thud. Yeah.
Yes. So thud is the beginning. Thud, crunch, crunch, crunch. And then I play it again, thud. So I'll play it one more time. And again, I think it's going to be a lot better when people listen to this on YouTube. I like that one because after I listened, I went, you kind of look around you and you're like,
Who's there?
what are they stepping on? But you and I know, because we've been speaking about this and processing this over and over again ad nauseum, that everything is right here with us. So
Yes.
they could be walking on gravel or just really want to make themselves known right here beside me. And that gravel doesn't exist in my dimension, but it exists in their dimension. And that is why some of this gets easier and easier for them as they practice more and more with this vibrational shifting to get here to our dimension, to make it clearer. So that I like that one too. I want to play another one. This one is me talking. And I think I was talking to this woman again, and they repeated what I just said. And again, this is even better proof what some people say. There are different classes of EVPs, like a class 1 or class A, I'm not sure, would mean it's easily heard without headphones. It's clear, everybody hears the same thing, and it's in a response to something either you asked or you said. So there's clear connection. And this obviously wasn't my first clear connection, but I like this one too. So the first is going to be me, and then you're going to hear them. And it's going to be played 3 times. Slowing down, speeding up. Slowing down, speeding up. Slowing down, speeding up. Slowing down, speeding up. So you heard that one, me saying, I forget what I was talking about, slowing down, speeding up, and they say speeding up. And did you notice it's more of a woman's voice this time?
Yes, yes. And that one's very clear.
So you heard that one. I like when the woman's voice comes in, because sometimes you could slow it down enough and it all sounds manly, but I didn't have to slow that down at all. I'm going to play that again. So I say, slowing down, speeding up, and then she says, speeding up. Slowing down, speeding up, and she says, speeding up. So I just repeat it 3 times. I'll play it again. Slowing down, speeding up. Slowing down, speeding up. Slowing down, speeding up. Slowing down, speeding up. I like to say they're just right, spirit humor.
Right. Yes.
And not to make fun or anything. They're just like, look what we can do.
Yeah, Spirit has such a great sense of humor. The one that you shared on your Spirit precipitation page about them mimicking you.
Oh, that's a good one too. That's a good one too. The one she's talking about. It is posted on my Instagram feed, Spirit Precipitation. It'll soon enough be posted everywhere else. But the one she's talking about is I was just playing by myself here and nothing was happening. So I did something like doop, 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 just making noise like that. And then immediately after they went, ding, 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 ding. It's like they just repeated in their form. Yesterday at the end of a reading, I said namaste, like I normally do. I close out my readings that way. And they did doop, 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 which the syllables of namaste, they repeated. So I say namaste and they're like doop, 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 which was namaste in their language at that time. I'm like, wow, that was powerful too. They just were able I don't even know what to call it. The eclipse. It's a spirit eclipse, but there wasn't a word. I can't find a word. So I've got one more I want to play.
Okay.
Here's them saying a word, and I did it regular speed, and then I did it, I think, slower speed. So I'll see what this one says. But this is actually a word. I think they were congratulating me for something after I just was talking about something. They just said this.
Yeah, I can't hear anything on that one.
So I'll play it again, but they're saying bravo. And the first one was slowed down. The second says it's doing very fast, because it normally comes fast. Spirit will talk very fast. It'll be bravo, bravo. But I see the spike, so I'm able to amplify it and then also slow it down. So the beginning is me slowing it down, and the last three are how it regularly, how it came through originally, which speeded up. Bravo, bravo. And that's all you hear when I'm listening, and I hear that I'm like, I know that's a word. And then we just have to play with it. That takes the longest time, is going through all of those things and playing with, okay, I know that's something, amplifying it, spreading it out, making it go slower over and over, headphones, without headphones. So that one you should be able to hear clearer when you re-listen to this, when this comes through on YouTube.
Yeah. So, yeah, and again, that the second time that you played that, I could hear the first one, but the other ones I personally couldn't hear. But like you said, you can probably hear it later on YouTube.
It was very quick. You wouldn't have made it out unless I slowed it down.
Okay, gotcha. Um, what is your intention with this type of communication, Donna?
It's a great question. And for me right now, it's for me to learn it, practice it, and I would love to share it with those that are grieving their loved ones or missing their loved ones. And like you said, if you could just hear their voice. My intention, even if they only get clicks and spikes, it means that your loved ones are trying to communicate. Right. And that's for sure, knowing that they're there. There's a woman I teach a private class to, and it's an hour each time, and she doesn't hear it, but I hear it while we're talking. It's continuous. No words, just lots of clicks and spikes and everything. It's annoying. And I finally asked her, because I didn't want to tell her right about it. It's just not something I was sharing at the time. But I finally said to her, you know, a lot of people in the spirit world, don't you? And she's like, oh, I have so many people that are crossed. And the only thing I took from that was all of them are trying, and they're just all trying at the same time. They'll figure it out eventually, but it was a lot. It was a lot. But my goal is to be able to make that bridge connect, to bridge that gap between the spirit world and this dimension, so that they can have this voice here to be able to listen and hear.
Yes.
And you think it'll be, you were excited. You said, oh, this is great. But
yeah.
Is it just like anything? It's like mediumship. You know, people go for it and some people won't. But I'm hoping, like you said, this is a game changer.
It is. It really is. And I won't go into a whole lot of detail on this one. But you know, like you had mentioned, you know, if people want to do this, want to practice with you to hear their loved ones, that's kind of what we have practiced a couple of different times. We spoke of my dad, but another one that we did, it's So just sharing with everyone is what Donna does is it's similar to her readings that she does on the podcast, but it's a little bit shorter. So she'll connect in with your loved one. She'll bring them in, in her mind, and share a little message with you. So it's a, you get a little message, and then during that message is Donna's doing the Zoom recording. And then after the short 15 minutes, then she'll go through and listen to it to see what your loved one said. So sometimes now it's like whenever Donna and I talk on the phone, she's like, "Did you hear that? Did you hear that?"
It happens whenever there's technology in use, it will happen.
It does. It happens all the time. I've noticed it a couple of times while we've been on this, that it's gotten a little glitchy. But it's all just about practicing and having an open mind, an open heart. And I can definitely say for myself that this has definitely helped me. Even after 30 years, there's still things that are there. There's always different layers to the healing process. You can say, "Oh, I'm over that," or I've grieved, or all I'm going to say is, if you've ever had the thought of, "I want to if I could just hear my loved one's voice one more time," I definitely recommend a practice session with Donna. And thank you for allowing me to be your beta tester, Donna, and practicing, because it's been a lot of fun and it's been amazing. And there's a lot more to this that Donna, I mean, we're just sitting here kind of doing the launch on this, but there's a lot more that Donna has to share that she's been practicing, and we've just been having fun with it. It's been great. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
And I know I think I said at the beginning, if I didn't say it clearly enough, I'm going to say it again. There have been so many that have come before me that have done this work. And I am so grateful and honored that they did do that work, that vibration had gone out there, so that people like me, years later, many years later, they say this has been happening for hundreds of years, but the technology has increased so much that the ability to do it, I think, is so much clearer. And I will also state that this is called Transform EVP. And Transform EVP means that there is no outside force. There's no, like, the static radio isn't working. I've stopped using that. You don't have an app that cycles through words so that spirit can use those inflections to speak. This is not using anything like that. This is only using me as the medium, my computer, and Zoom on multiple tracks, where it asks you one track or multiple tracks. I always click multiple tracks. I have that down. And if I have a client, there's my client's track. So there is no outside. And again, I'll go through, and if my client's not saying anything and it's blank, you could see just a little bit of a spike, really small. And I've got to go to that, or I'll see the sound reverb. I'll see that. But it takes a while, and then I've got to amplify that and figure it out. So it's sometimes, like the ones we've played, have been very clear, but there's others where I really have to justify it. I have to amplify it. I have to do something with it. But everybody's working differently in the world of spirit, as we are all working differently. But I'm grateful, yep, for sure, Aditi, for hanging in there with me and figuring this out. To my sister, who is my editor and producer on the podcast, Linking to the Afterlife, her work with helping me figure out Audacity. And because it's been a learning curve, and there are a lot of people that do this, I've heard, that have a program that they work with, and nobody wants to change the program because it means having to learn another program to try to figure it out. But I found that Audacity works. I'm not going to be teaching this sort of thing because Everybody is different on what they're doing in their life. If you want to learn to be a medium, if you want to learn your developmental skills of intuitive development or mediumship development, I will teach that. But there's really no way I can teach this beside telling you what I've been doing, how it's been happening to me.
Right.
I can't guarantee it's going to happen to anybody else. Just as anything else, I can't guarantee any part of that. It's practice. It's practice because spirit wants someone like me who's committed to that practice. And Aditi knows me. I've been committed to this practice for 10 plus years to sit with my own stuff, to allow spirit to do this sort of connection, to bridge this gap.
Yes. And so another question I have for you, Donna, has any of your phones rang?
That's a good question. I love my phones. There's one sitting here. One time. I thought earlier today, the phone made a noise while I was on a call with a client, but I haven't gone back to check yet. It came from the room, but by the time you register it, it's done. You know, they don't do it. They didn't do it twice. But yes, one time in the middle of the night, I was awake in my bedroom, which is around the corner that way. And I heard, and one of my old timey phones ring, like ring, that type. And that was just it once. And I just stayed there in bed and went, does it have to be in the middle of the night? I didn't get up. And my daughter was like, did you answer it? I'm like, I did not get up. However, after that, I said, okay, if you ring it, I swear next time I'll get up, I won't be freaked out. And I was a little freaky in the middle of the night. But again, I want this to come across as a new brand of normal and what this world can actually, what can happen? What can actually happen?
And really right now, from everything that, I mean, whoever I don't watch the news, but just different things that people are talking about now. And anything's possible. Anything is possible. There's so much that's going on. It's, with an open heart and an open mind, anything's possible. Yeah. And I did want to share one other thing about, just a confirming on one of the other recordings that we did. It was my nephew that had passed, and that's been, more recent than my dad. And he said his name clear as a bell. And there was no ifs, ands, or buts about. He even came through with a saying that he used to say.
That was through my voice.
Yes, and that was your voice. But he was answering questions. We had a very clear question for him. The answer was yes.
We heard him say yes.
So it's not like, I mean, there is a possibility of a phrase or, something like that. But, starting off as we're all practicing this, the anticipation, having no expectations, and then the anticipation of that it's going to be their name, a word, it may or may not be, something that's very clear, but it's all practice. And we may get there someday to actually be able to have clear communication if we all keep practicing, or by us all to continue our practicing.
Yes.
And I just want to speak into, also, you mentioned this, but I just want to say, this is nothing that's scary. It didn't hurt. We didn't do I've heard people say doing seances. I think that was brought up in one of the videos that you had shared with me. It's nothing like that at all. It's clear, conscious communication. And it's fun.
And we know spirit has already been communicating, not just this way, but also they draw, they write, they send apports, they send physical things down through the dimensions. So it's not like they haven't been doing a lot of things. But for me, I've also been practicing all of those things. But what I love about not having expectations, even about your soul and what it's doing, is you never know until you know. This basically dropped in my lap. It just
Right.
dropped in my lap. And I had no idea it was going to go the way it went over these last 4 months. I had no idea. It wasn't a thought in my brain. I'm like, oh, apparently I can do this now. And that's the way things have been happening with me. I just say, oh, that just happened. I wonder if that can keep happening. And I just keep that intention going forward. But it literally just landed at my feet.
Yeah.
I didn't have to practice. I've been practicing so many other ways to get here. So as a human, we don't know until we know.
Absolutely. I love that saying. I've been using that a lot. Yeah.
Because there's a lot we
A
don't
lot.
know. All right. Do we have anything else to share right now?
I
Except
thi- for your debut, Donna, I think we did really good.
I'm out. So I'll start sharing many places. I look forward to everybody sharing this. And I, you know, I didn't mention this because I don't know why I didn't. I don't want to. I don't want to sound, but there was someone that came through that's a very popular person, a well-known personality. And I didn't have any intention of that either. I just, for some reason, started thinking about that person when I first started recording, and that person said their name. And I don't know where that's going to go. And I'm not ready to say what that is yet. But again, I don't know until I know. But I want to keep doing this. I've
Yeah.
got to keep doing this.
Yes. Keep going, Donna. Keep
Keep
going.
going. Keep going. So
Keep it going.
thank you. I thank you so much for joining me in this Donna coming out 2.3.0, whatever it is, where I'm at these days. And I look forward to any comments anyone has. I'm sure there'll be a lot of them. Um, all I can do is say, give you what I have so far, and then say, I really don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm getting all the signs from spirit that I can get that this is happening. It's happening.
It is happening.
Thank you again so much for joining me.
Yes. Thank you for having me and having me be your tester.
Love you so much.
Love you too, Donna.